Manafort, Kilimnik, and the campaign data channel, the counterintelligence black box. While the world was watching the rallies, internal campaign secrets were moving through a hidden channel to a man U.S. records tied to Russian intelligence. That is Chapter 4. Not because Mueller delivered one perfect, cinematic proof package. Not because prosecutors produced a courtroom-neat conspiracy ending. But because the official record shows something colder, harder, and more unsettling. Internal Trump campaign polling data and strategy updates moved through Paul Manafort to Konstantin Kilimnik during the 2016 election, and U.S. official records treated Kilimnik as tied to Russian intelligence. That is not trivia. That is not background noise. That is a counterintelligence black box. And that is why this is not a side plot. It is one of the central pressure points in the entire Trump-Russia story. The official record shows that Manafort and Kilimnik remained in contact during the campaign, including the August 2, 2016 meeting in New York. Mueller's report says Manafort briefed Kilimnik on the Trump campaign and expected Kilimnik to pass information to individuals in Ukraine and elsewhere. The report also states that Rick Gates periodically sent Kilimnik internal polling data and campaign updates, and that Manafort instructed Gates to do so, even though Manafort later claimed not to remember that specific instruction. That is the core fact pattern. Not Manafort was convicted of collusion. He was not. Not Mueller proved the data directly guided Russian cyber operations. He did not. What Mueller documented is this: the channel existed, the polling data moved, and Manafort lied about parts of it afterward. And this is where the story gets dangerous. Campaign polling is not just numbers on a spreadsheet. It is strategic currency. It can show where a campaign is weak, where it is strong, what messages move persuadable voters, where money should go, and where pressure might be applied. When that kind of information moves through a figure official U.S. records treated as tied to Russian intelligence, the question is not only whether prosecutors could prove a clean conspiracy case. The question is, why was this channel open at all? Now stop and look at who got that data. Mueller traced the channel. Other official records made the threat even clearer. The Senate Intelligence Committee's bipartisan Volume 5 report described Kilimnik as a Russian intelligence officer and treated Manafort's connection to him, including the sharing of campaign information, as one of the most serious counterintelligence problems in the entire investigation. Treasury later stated that during the 2016 campaign, Kilimnik provided Russian intelligence services with sensitive information on polling and campaign strategy, and Treasury identified him as a known Russian intelligence services agent. And by the end of this chapter, you can already see why these lies mattered far beyond the campaign. They fed straight into the chaos of the transition. Now discipline matters. It would be wrong to say Mueller proved the polling data directly changed Russian operations, directed the hack and leak schedule, or created a clean criminal conspiracy case. He did not. What the public record supports is something more careful, and in some ways more alarming. This was a serious counterintelligence channel whose full downstream use may never be publicly reconstructed with courtroom neatness. In plain English, even without a courtroom-perfect ending, the national security danger was already there. And that leads straight back to Manafort himself. He was not a random volunteer. He entered the Trump campaign carrying years of work for pro-Russian forces in Ukraine and financial exposure tied to oligarchic power networks. Mueller situates that vulnerability in Manafort's prior work, including his ties to Oleg Deripaska and the pro-Russian political environment in Ukraine. In plain language, Manafort was already loaded with exposure before he ever stepped into Trump Tower as campaign chairman. That is the real terror inside this chapter. A foreign-linked operative with baggage. A campaign hungry to win. Internal strategy data moving outward. A suspected intelligence-linked intermediary receiving it. And afterward, lies. That combination does not need a movie ending to be dangerous. It is dangerous on its face. So if the world asks what Chapter 4 really proves, the answer is this: Manafort maintained a campaign period channel to Kilimnik. Internal polling data and campaign updates moved through that channel. U.S. official records treated Kilimnik as tied to Russian intelligence, and later as a known Russian intelligence services agent. Mueller documented that Manafort lied about parts of these interactions. And even where prosecutors did not produce a clean criminal conspiracy case from it, the counterintelligence significance remained profound. That is why this is not the loudest chapter. It is one of the most dangerous. And the next chapter shows what happened when the transition itself crossed into danger. Because after sanctions were imposed on Russia for election interference, Michael Flynn spoke with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about those sanctions, then later lied about it, turning a transition controversy into a public trust crisis. That is Chapter 5. The intro showed us the big picture. The Trump-Russia story is not random chaos, but a 15-chapter documented scandal system. Chapter 1 proved the foundation. Russia attacked the election, the evidence was real, and denial became part of the battlefield. Chapter 2 showed that Trump's orbit never fully escaped Moscow, because a live Moscow deal, Kremlin outreach, and a false public timeline revealed real political vulnerability. Chapter 3 lights the fuse. Before the public knew the full shape of the attack, a Trump advisor heard Russia had Clinton emails. U.S. authorities later got that tip from a foreign partner. The FBI opened its investigation, and the contact was later lied about. We are only 4 chapters in. There are still 11 deep dives left into the Russian connection scandals of Trump. Subscribe now and stay with the series. Big Dave here. Fascism dies when the world is watching and Canada is watching net. And so is the world. 1K videos on our network for enjoyment and research. Act now to save democracy by supporting Ukraine. Their success is ours. Go to United 24 Media and tell them Big Dave sent you. Big hugs.